to the Joshua Morales podcast.
All right, cool. So, welcome, Brandon, and we've known each other for a while, but just so people have context of who you are and what you do, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started doing what you're doing now, because you do quite a few different things. So touch on that stuff.
Well, my career is being a police officer, so I kind of basically doing what my dad used to do back in the days. You know, I do my work, and then when I'm not working, I try to go out and go downtown, flying horse, and then just starting in, 2017, that's when we started doing the events for my father. So that's my main focus outside of work, making sure everything's ready to go with that.
So police officer, that's a completely different field than a lot of people go into. You did that specifically because of your father, I'm assuming?
Well, he helped me out because, a lot of people think like, oh, you just did it because you did. No,
right.
I had to do everything on my own. He didn't help me or anything. I would go on ride-alongs, and that's pretty much what got me to do that. It was like, I didn't know in college, they make you take those college readiness classes and all that stuff, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. Everyone had all their business or whatever they wanted to go into. I had no idea. So I was like, you know what? I think law enforcement. I was like, give it a try. The worst thing that could happen is I don't make it.
What was it about law enforcement that drew you to it? I
like being out there and doing stuff. I can't work in the desk job all day. I'll go crazy.
I hear you, man.
It's just, I can't. I deal with a lot of crazy shit, but I love it.
What's been the craziest thing? Because I've always wanted to have an officer on my podcast. What's been the craziest thing that you've seen so far?
I wouldn't say crazy, but I guess the thing that will always stick in my head is the first dead body I had to deal with, and it was in Farfurias, and I was still on the FTO program, and we were just about to leave. I was on a 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift, and it was about 3:15, and then we got a call of a bee attack. So we go, and it's a poor, elderly woman, and we get there. I just got a bad feeling, man. It's like I saw her, she was on her front porch, and she was kind of slouched over, and I was like, oh, this isn't good, man. And unfortunately, we did all we could, but we couldn't make contact with her because there's so many bees.
That's crazy.
EMS told us she ended up aggravating some Africanized bees while mowing her lawn, and they just went at her.
Where was that?
In Fafurias.
Wow.
Yeah, so poor lady ended up dying, and that just stuck in my head.
That's crazy.
That was my first dead body, so kind of, now I see them, and it's like,
You've become I got you. So what is that? Obviously some people would have been like, okay, the first traumatic experience, they would have just like, no, forget this, man. What was it about that experience and being in this field kept you in it?
I just love doing, the different, because I was telling my girlfriend the other day, I kind of hate the live PD sometimes because they don't show everything.
Right.
They kind of, not, I know obviously they do editing and everything, but they don't show the situations where people are like rude to us and just don't let us do our job. They kind of show the calm traffic stops, the calm domestics where you're like, oh, well, you're under arrest, or oh, you get out of here.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't go that smooth.
Yeah, I find one of your jobs is a very high stress job, obviously, and it's very difficult because a lot of people are like, "Well, fuck the police, fuck the police." That mentality.
Yeah, it's getting worse every year too.
And that's crazy because I feel like, well, I don't know if it's because I know a lot of police officers. I've known a lot of police officers, but I also grew up in San Juan where we would hang out in the ghettos and we would worry about the police. But the mentality is when I grew older, I was like, I started knowing these people personally. I was like, dude, they're not like that. And why do you think people have such a negative stereotype with police officers?
It's just, I guess, officers around the U.S., they don't know how to handle the power,
Yeah.
Because, we have, badges and authority and everything, but, I'm no different than you or anyone, So it's just, you have to be able to, have that and then have how do you say it, self-control,
Yeah,
because there's some times where you get pissed, and it's natural, you get pissed if someone yelling in your face, and but
no, I completely agree. It's a very high stress job. I work with the CAC, and it's with child abuse, So they have a high stress job. I can imagine you're out in the streets
Yeah.
with people that are drunk, on drugs, on different types of things. You never know what's going to happen in people's lives. And you also never know what's going to happen in officers' lives. So that could also play a role in whatever happens that day, right?
Oh, yeah.
I just find it super interesting in the world that we live in now, where social media has amplified everything. Like literally everything is out there. But what I find cool is that you're in the community and you love hardcore rock and roll, you love metal, and you're out in the community and you're also an officer. So that brings a realness to you about being a police officer, but also being supportive in the community. I want to talk about ALS. So your father, I've known your father for years, dude, many, many years when we used to play back in bands and in bars so many years ago, dude.
Holly Madison.
Holly Madison. It was, oh man, it's so bad days. They used to sell dollar draft beer at one of the, Mr. Cotton's, that's what it was called, Mr. Cotton's. Wow. And then other places too. It was fun times, to say the least, until we grew up, right? Yeah. But I want to talk about ALS because it did strike Andy, and I don't think people know too much about ALS. And it's I think it's kind of a new type of thing that it's been around for, I guess, in the mainstream media, or people here in the Valley are talking about for the past 5-6 years. But it's been around for a long time. So yeah. I kind of want to know your journey, because I lost a lot of contact with Andy. After we stopped playing, after we stopped hanging out, like he just went off on his own. I went off on my own. Yeah. What was that like transition when he started with ALS, or what was it like? How did he get into that thing? You know,
he just. I remember the day he told me he possibly had it. I'll never forget it, because we were actually on what is it, Jackson? Yeah, I think it was Jackson Road. We were heading to that Texadelphia. Yeah, I had never tried it, you know, and he's like, you got to go there. Like, you have some good food. The fries are real good. I was like, yeah, let's go there. And we went, and then, you know, he brought it up, and he says, hey, because I think he had just had like a mini stroke. So he ended up going to the doctor, and then they told him, hey, you possibly might have ALS. And of course, he didn't know what that was either, you know. People, everyone else, me and him included, you know, we just knew that as like the bucket challenge thing. Like, we didn't know what the ALS was. So when he told me, I said, oh, okay. So of course, you know, like what any other person would do, I was like, I looked it up on Google and just started reading brief little summaries, and I was just like, man, this is bad, you know. So I remember me and him, you know, were both crying that day, and then he was like, you know what, like if this is gonna happen, if I'm gonna die soon, you know, that, you know, God will decide. You know, he has a lot of faith and stuff, and it was difficult in the beginning. I mean, especially for a lot of people. I know there's some people that, you know, they're like, you know what, I can't see your dad. Right. You know, I knew him as a funny guy, a charismatic person, and to see him the way he is now deteriorating, that's like some people freaks them out. You know,
yeah, they can't deal with it.
They're like, oh man, you know. So it was hard for us too in the beginning, because, you know, we see him every week. You know, we go out, and before it wasn't so bad because he had his power chair or wheelchair, whatever, and, you know, we'd take him in the van. He eventually ended up getting a van with everything fixed up, you know, and we'd still take him to the movie. He was still drinking too in the beginning. I remember the first ALS, he was drinking, but then the year after that, it just got worse. You know, he got what do you call that thing?
It's the tube, right?
The tracheotomy thing, whatever. Yeah. And so that kind of made it get worse.
So that ALS, it deteriorates your body like super quick. So what was the transition?
It basically starts at your legs. So you start losing your motor skills, like walking. At first, he just had a cane, and then the next year is like wheelchair, and then power chair, and then eventually it gets, you know, up here, and then now his hands like have no movement.
Oh, really?
Before he had at least a little movement to move his fingers and then control the power chair. Now,
wow. Nothing. Yeah. So I know Susie very well. She's not your mom.
No, that's my dad's wife.
So talk about that. I mean, because I'm always curious about people's lives, about how, especially with families, especially here in the Rio Grande Valley. So when your father was now with Susie, she obviously is taking care of him a ton, right? How does it make you feel as a son? Obviously, like your dad's being taken care of, or like, I mean, touch on that, because I'm curious about that, about your family. I guess the family values that you have now with a new wife or something, right? I'm always curious about those things, because I'm always curious about how people think, what they think, and why they do the things they do.
Well, I mean, I'm grateful for everything she does. You know, 'cause I mean, she does a lot. You know, and I mean, yeah, of course, you know, we've butted heads because I mean, I don't remember how old I was when he married Susie, but you know, we've had our fights, and even now, you know, we've had, you know, little disagreements here and then, but at the end of the day, I mean, I respect her, and that's my dad's wife, and you know, she's been doing
Yeah.
everything, you know, and she's there all the time. The only time she leaves is like to get groceries or necessities. You know, I can't remember the last time she actually like went out or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's very commendable. I mean, for a lot of people, it's like, damn, man, this disease has really impacted your life.
yeah,
And it doesn't only impact your life; it literally impacts the people around you, and it keeps on going. But that's one of the things that I found interesting is a lot of people, like you were talking about, like a lot of people can't see Andy like that.
yeah,
They just they I guess they have a certain image of him how he was, and I always find as like, okay, out of sight, out of mind. That's what I always compare it to is like. But I mean, what are Andy's thoughts? Like, is he still 100% in his mind, or
yeah. I mean, for the most part, like today, actually, I'm gonna go see him around 4, and it's just basically telling him about my day, about work and everything. I mean, he won't exactly respond, but you know, he'll blink his eyes or whatever, or he'll smile. Like that's his way of laughing now. And yeah, that's pretty much all it is. I mean, he's not like a vegetable, you know.
Right.
That's what people are thinking. No, he's still there. It's just he literally has no movement. You know,
so he's trapped
it's
in
pretty
his own
much
body?
yeah. It's pretty much I want to say just his eyes.
Yeah.
Pretty much all he has control of right now.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder because there was a point where he could talk with the computer. I remember when
he
I
used to put it words and everything, and then once he was done, press a button and it would just talk for him.
when did that stop?
I don't know. I want to say 2 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I said, once he started losing motion in his hands, it's
What do you think he would say? Like obviously your conversations. Okay, even then, like 2 years ago when he lost his motor skills, where he couldn't type anymore. Obviously, from then to now, which is 2 years later, his mind frame had to have completely changed. It had to have completely gone somewhere else. What do you think is going through his mind when he's sitting there or looking at these things or having conversations with you?
I mean, I know for sure he misses work. You know, even when he was able to talk, you know, he would cry and tell me stories of seeing his coworkers work or get promoted, or because it would freak me out how fast he would move up. You know, because when I was a kid, I remember I was in elementary. I think he was a FTO, and then once I was in junior high, he started moving into investigations, and I guess he got bored with that. So he's like, "Oh, they're testing for sergeant," so he went for that. Like he just kept
Going
you know,
up.
and I always remember too, because I remember he would get us every weekend, and then he'd be like, "Oh, well, we'll go have lunch and go see a movie or whatever," and then I got to go study. So he'd go do that, and you know, and I'm pretty sure, you know, he could have made it to, you know, assistant or even chief, you know, if he wanted to, you know, because that's the kind of person he was. He just, if he wanted something, he
Just kept going.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. There's a I think a negative stereotype with so I always try to touch on mental health every episode. Growing up in a family where your parents were divorced, right? You could have gone obviously in a completely different route, another completely different route. What was it that you did to be able to stay straight edge and to be able to go like, or you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna have a career, I'm gonna go through this? Was it the fact that Andy has ALS, or was it in your own mind that you did something like that? So what was your mind frame is pretty much what I'm asking, your mentality. Because I don't think too many people know. How old are you?
25.
You're young.
Are you talking about like when they first got divorced?
Yeah, I guess from when they first got divorced to now, like what was it? Because I guess you're considered a Gen Z or you're a young millennial. I'm an old millennial, so I know that mental health is obviously you go through these experiences. Like what was it that made you say, you know what, I'm gonna keep going straight and I'm gonna have a career and I'm gonna keep going after this? And
yeah, well, the thing is that my parents have been divorced since my sister was born. So this year it'll be 20 years because she was born in 2000. But I mean, they've been divorced, but it wasn't like, I feel for most people it kind of sucks because it's like your parents divorced when you're little, then you lose contact with one of your parents. And, it was never like that with my father. He always made sure to see us. He always made sure if he had the money to get us something, whether it was a necessity or just something we wanted, he made sure, we'd see him every week. I mean, there wasn't like, he always made time for us. So it never felt like, oh man, we don't have a dad. Like,
right.
I didn't. So that helped a lot because I still had, I mean, yeah, I lived with my mom, but I always had that support from him too. I still had both my parents. It's just that, they divorced and he remarried and
that's what it was.
That, I mean, of course it was confusing in the beginning. I was little, but he was still, I mean,
always there.
He never used that as an excuse. You know what I mean? Like some people, I guess, do. And that's when it kind of messes up the, as you grow up.
Right.
You're like, oh man, well, my dad left and he never came back.
Right. Yeah.
I feel, bad for those kind of people. But I mean, no, my father never.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's not the case for most people.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about the thing. Let's talk about your Kiss ALS, Kiss My ALS, right? Mm-hmm. So this is what number are we on already? Is it 4?
This will be 4, yeah.
So now, okay. So talk about that and obviously how it started, right?
Yeah.
And then talk about what's coming up now.
Well, it started with what I think you had started the first one, and then I basically just
took it over
from there because I remember it was his birthday month, I want to say, because I still have the picture somewhere on my phone. That's when he was still in his wheelchair. We went to what's that place right here, Dirty House. Mm-hmm. We ate some food, and he told me, he started typing his phone. He's like, big paragraph. I'm like, what is he putting? He shows me, he's like, hey, Josh wants to throw me a benefit show. It's gonna be at Flying Walrus. And I was like, really? I was like, what date? And he told me the date and said, oh, well, what does he have? Like, does he have the bands already? And then he's like, I don't know. Like, get with Josh. And I was like, all right. And that's when I messaged you because I was like, oh, okay, well, what's gonna happen or what are we gonna do? Or what? Yeah. And then I remember you said that you had everything. So I was like, okay, cool. I'll just keep promoting it. And then I remember you saying that, oh, all the bands dropped.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh man. So fortunately, I had a band back in the day in high school, so I know a few people, and what do you call it? They help me out whenever I need. All I have to do is text them or give them a phone call and have a lot of support.
Yeah, I think it was serendipitous that it worked out that way because obviously there's a ton of things that I could do. Like my thing is I'll find certain bands that I like, right? Mm. But I think what the thing is this is your kind of thing. So it kind of naturally gravitated towards you. Mm. If you know what I kind of mean.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't never meant to be my thing. Maybe I just started it, right? But for some reason it just ended up going towards you.
But it's good though because it's like I've been so busy. I mean, that would have been the last thing I would have thought of.
Yeah.
I probably would have barely been thinking about that right now,
Yeah.
But because of that one, it's grown, and each year I meet new people, and I met a lot of great people along the way, and I've had help, and ever since what was it, the 2018 one, I have people that are like, hey, well, if you do it, I'm down to play again, or I'm down to support again, anyway. So
let's talk about those people because I feel like the bands and the people that are behind the scenes don't really get too much credit.
Oh,
these guys are cool as shit, dude.
Yeah. There's a lot of guys as far as supporters, I always have Andrew Raines and his family. I've become real close with them. He's like a brother right now. And Vinny D, we keep in contact. I mean, he moved, so it sucks. We don't get to hang out or anything, but we keep in contact. We'll message each other, or he'll message me, and he's always told me like, hey man, I live over here, but anytime you need me, I'll be here. I'll come into town.
Yeah.
So that means a lot to me. Other supporters. Oh, the Black Widow girls, they're always down to help me. The RGV Banditas, they're always, they don't hesitate. Hellfire Studios, Dan Lopez, he helps me out a lot. He does promotion. He'll sell some tickets for me and everything. I don't want to leave anyone out. I'm trying to think.
Because there's a lot of moving parts.
Tattoo shops, so the Buena Suerte, Ink Elephant, like they're always down to help me with whatever they can, and that helps a lot because when I do the raffle tickets, people see tattoo like, oh wait, and then all the bands, there's a lot of bands, the Andrew's band, The Perfused, Final Burial, Chemical Thought. What's another band? There's Ryson. Those guys are always down to play.
Yeah.
Josh Lopez, actually, of Widowmaker Studios. I went to school with him, so
Oh,
I've known
okay.
him forever. And so
He
it's just a matter.
was supposed to be on my podcast.
You know what yeah, dude, it's just a matter of texting him, and he's a busy guy, but he'll always get back to me, you know, when he can. And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, like, well, just let me know." And he's the one actually that did sound this past time.
Yeah.
And he saved me because I had no one. I had the people gave me like a list, like, "Oh, hit up these guys," and then I would hit them up, and they would, "Oh, well, I have a gig that night," and I was like, "Oh, like, you know, it was already 2 weeks before the event."
Yeah.
And I think the week of, or something like that, Josh messaged me. He's like, "Hey man, you still need someone?" I was like, "Yeah, dude, I do." So luckily he did it, and everything sounded great. And unfortunately, it was cold that day, so that kind of messed it up. But that's why, you know, I want to change things up a bit this year.
Yeah. So talk about what you have coming up in summer then.
Yeah, this year I'm gonna try. I mean, depending, because first I have to see how my schedule is gonna look like, you know.
Right.
But it would be nice to have it in either July or August. That would
Summer.
be great. Yeah.
A summer one. Yeah, I think that's a good idea because it gives options for everybody else. Like,
Oh, yeah.
all right, December is super busy or November is already busy with the holidays coming up. Summer is a different thing.
Yeah, that's another reason I never, because people tell me, well, why don't you do it in October? If I ever do it in October, people are going to forget, you know, not because they want to. It's just that there's so many Halloween events. That's the Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want it to get, you know, I kind of leave that month alone. And then, you know, I'll just always, the only reason I did it in November is because I'm so used to November, you know. I just be like, oh, well, November this date. And but no, this year, I mean, I learned from last year that, you know, the weather towards the end of the year is just unpredictable. You know, so I rather just play it safe and have it in summer. And worst case scenario, it's hot.
Yeah,
real hot. You know, and people, you know.
Yeah, I think at that point you can probably have like a beer garden outside or something, man,
I mean,
which makes it even better.
And I feel like, you know, with that kind of weather, you could just have more stuff to do. You know, more vendors, more, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone can have fun.
Yeah. So what I want to talk about next is obviously you have a benefit show. Obviously, there's things that come up in people's lives where tragic things happen. I want to talk about how you can put a benefit show together, how you did it, right? Obviously, you did it year after year after year after year. If somebody wants to put on a benefit show for somebody that they care about or something that's happened, how can they start doing that?
Well, like I said, I didn't do everything on my own. I mean, I do as much as I can, is pretty much just contacting people. You know, I have you help me do the event page and start promoting it. I have Vinny Deep, he promotes it too. He's the MC. And then Andrew Rains will help me a lot too and promote it. And he's the one that actually helped me with the 2018 one, because that one we did a lot. I mean, he went out of his way to get in contact with local bands everywhere, like bands that aren't even close to here, you know, like some of them from Harlingen and stuff. And they all donated merch. So what we ended up doing was getting all that bundled into 3 different bags. And those were prizes, you know. I had a bunch of like t-shirts, CDs, hats, like all kinds of, even Whiskey D, I think, donated some sort, just a bunch of bands, and that helped a lot. And so he taught me, him and Dan Lopez taught me about like networking, you know, and getting, the more people you know, the better, you know. That's all. I mean, it's just helping each other out. And you know, I've learned that, you know, the worst thing that can happen is they say no,
right?
I can't help you, you know. But I mean, you know, for the most part, it's like, as long as you ask, for the most part, people will say, yeah, man, I'll do what I can. Yeah,
I think what happens here is a lot of people think like, all right, there's hardcore metal scene, like these guys don't give a shit. That's not the case.
No. Yeah, I mean, there's bands like, well, yeah, like the Final Barrels played like about 2-3 years already, you know, and Ryson too. They just started recently playing a bunch of shows with me. And they'll probably be on the next one too, because they're always down to play. You know, they're a good headliner. You know?
Right.
People hear their name and they're like, okay, I'll stay.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is like, if you don't have a good headliner, it's kind of,
nobody's gonna stay.
It's difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to make sure you put a good opener too. You know, like this past one, I felt bad because I put a Vibrahaven, and they're super good. Like they're in my opinion, they shouldn't be an opener. They should kind of be in the middle. You know.
Right.
But I had no choice, and that's another thing that's kind of stressful about the event, is that, you know, I try to do my best, but I don't think a lot of people understand, like, I'm doing this on the side. You know, I'm a police officer that does this for my dad, and this is for my dad. You know, so I try to make everything go as smooth as possible. When I get the bands, I kind of ask them like, oh, what would be a great time for you? And then I'll work with that. I'll type it up on my phone. But then sometimes, you know, there's always one or two bands that are like, hey man, I can't play at that time.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to play at this time, and it's hard. I try to accommodate everyone and make sure everyone's happy, but that
Yeah, it's
you
just
can't please them all.
Yeah, you can't please them all. I think once you try to please them all, you please nobody.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because you end up helping one guy, and you're like, hey man, well this guy, So
yeah. It's always something, man. It's always something in life. But definitely, I'd like to obviously thank you for keeping this going, man. I know Andy obviously appreciates it every single year. And I mean, what is other stuff that you've seen in the ALS community? Because I know a few years ago, I filmed for one of their walks. Actually, there wasn't an event going on that was leading up to the walk.
Oh, I think I saw that. Yeah, the association came down,
Yes,
right?
yeah. So I haven't heard anything much about them
It's
anymore.
been a while. I mean, I know Susie probably hasn't gone because, like I said, it's a little more difficult for him to leave the house now.
Right.
He barely made it to the show this past year because it's like it takes forever just to get him situated, first of all, and then to get him in the van, and then to get him out is very difficult too. I got to see that firsthand this year, because she got him out, and then Susie was like, "Oh, you want to take him inside?" I was like, "Sure," and then moving the thing all crazy. But no, I mean, they usually have events like ever so often. Like I think they have maybe like 2 or 3 a year, but some of the times most of them are just meetings. Like with the families. I think there's about like 6 or 8 cases here.
Okay, there's not very many then.
Yeah, there used to be a little bit more, but I mean, I remember my dad telling me some of them have passed.
Right.
But yeah, there's about a good 6 or 8 cases out there.
Wow. The lifespan of somebody with ALS is what, 5 years?
They say, yeah, and if
Right.
you look it up on Google, it's the same thing. But I mean, I think it just depends because, I mean, my dad's a fighter, and there's been some poor people like they get diagnosed and then the next year boom, they're dead.
Wow.
So it's like he's very fortunate,
Yeah.
and I'm grateful, that he's still here because it's like, it's been rough, but they're making it work.
Yeah.
These events help, because the events, like I said, they're for him. They're not for me. I'm not gaining anything out of this. I do all the work for him. I don't get any money out of it.
Yeah.
All the money that we get goes to him. And he's grateful for it because it goes for the medical expenses, any extra things they might need,
Right.
medical supplies and all that stuff. And seeing him go and then having a good time, that's
Yeah, that's what he's always loved is music too.
yeah, he loves music. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So I guess what next is just tell everybody your plans for summer, because I want them to be able to express like, hey, I am interested in having this in summer, and that way it'll kind of like, all right, you have to set this date. This is what's going to happen in summer. So I guess touch on that.
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't really have an exact date, unfortunately, yet. But yeah, the way I'm looking at it is like either late July or early August, because my birthday's in August, so I kind of want to do it before that. I
Right.
don't want it to interfere with, I want this to be for him, and so more than likely, I mean, I'm looking at late July.
Okay.
So hopefully, whatever bands are available, because I know there's some bands that are already planning shows right now.
Yeah.
And they're putting them on Facebook and they're inviting me. I'm like, oh shit. But yeah, I'm hoping, get some good bands on there, and I'm gonna do my best to get some guys that haven't had the opportunity.
Right.
Because sometimes I feel bad and I get a lot of repeats, so that takes up that space. And they're good bands, but it's just I want to give other bands, a chance. Like I can't even say the band name right. But there was a band that played this past year that they literally played last minute because I had a band drop on me. Final Burial couldn't play their slot. So I was freaking out. I was like, man, I don't know if I could find a band that wants to play at 9:30. It's kind of early. But I found these guys. Oh my God. I can't. It's Monodicey or something. I can't pronounce it right. They're probably going to be all pissed. But yeah, they win, and man, everyone loved them. They did great, man. They're like a mix of Tool and Mastodon.
Nice.
I like the sound. But yeah, just bands like that. And it's crazy because it's like, I mean, I don't consider myself popular or anything over these events, but it's like I guess because of the social media and all the different kinds of promotion, it gets out there. I've had people messaging me and they're like, hey, are you the one that does the Kiss My ALS? I said, yeah, it's from my dad, and then we start talking, and sometimes they're band members or sometimes they're just regular people, and they're like, oh, I want to go, or I want to help, and then with the bands, it's like, they hit me up and they're like, oh, I want to play, but sometimes it's just like last minute, so I don't have anywhere to put them, so this time I'll probably start, posting stuff maybe like in March. And then
What if you do like a longer event? Like obviously
that's always been the goal, but it's just
it's not ready yet.
yeah, not just that, just I don't know how the venues would allow that,
Right.
Because Yerba Dia has been real supportive, and they've the old co-owner Chico, he used to, he helped me out so much. He even just dropped the show just to do mine.
Wow.
He's very supportive, and even though he's not with him anymore, Rick, the bartender, he took over, and he's always been supportive. And so all I have to do is tell him, hey man, I want to do this. He'll send me the like a layout of the calendar. Be like, pick a day, like whichever ones don't have anything, they're
Badass.
So, but I don't. It would have to be discussed with him and see if maybe we can do maybe an all day. Maybe starting at 4 or 5 and having bands play till 2 a.m.
Yeah,
because that would be great.
that would be awesome.
We'll see who goes that early, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sure if it's like on a Saturday, it would be like it would be cool. Like you're barbecuing, you're hanging out.
Yeah.
You have a bunch of bands. It make kind of like more of like a festival type of deal.
Yeah, that's what I've been wanting to do. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. If there's anything else you want to plug or let bands know that how they can reach you, that way you can already have this lineup ready to go.
Oh yeah, I mean they can reach me at my Facebook, which is just my name, Brandon Luna, and then they'll find me and then just message me. And I'm always checking my messages because sometimes, how they have that thing now where it's like if they're not friends with you, you have to go to another list.
Yeah.
So I always check those because you never know. Sometimes people ask about it. And
what are your favorite social media platforms that you use?
I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is pretty cool.
Do you use Snapchat?
Yeah, I use Snapchat. But
Often, or
as far as communication, like actually, no, not really. Just for stupid videos.
What about TikTok?
No,
Not yet.
No.
You will get there, I guarantee you.
No, I've heard about it. I just no.
What's your YouTube consumption? I this is my digital marketer part of me that always comes out. I'm always interested in what people do online. How often do you use YouTube?
Oh, it's been a while. I haven't really.
You haven't really?
Yeah, I actually haven't.
I guess since I'm in it all the time.
Yeah. I used to love YouTube when I was younger. I would just go and watch stupid videos But now, I mean, I don't know. I guess I get annoyed with so many people getting rich over YouTube.
Dude.
They make one stupid video and then it just blows up.
That EvanTube kid makes like $27 million. That's crazy.
Kids younger than me and making a shitload of money.
It's insane, dude. That's why I think I'm always bullish on like TikTok and LinkedIn. Like it's weird for me for a 38-year-old man to be on TikTok. But I was like, if I don't get into it now, like shit, man, like it's gonna grow, and then I'm gonna be like a latecomer. So, and then LinkedIn's another one that I use for professional stuff. So it's like, I'm gonna do it all. I'm in it, like that's my job. So in that stuff. So
that's good.
All right, cool, man. Brandon, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. And if you have it, let people know again how they can reach you if they want to jump on board with Kiss My ALS.
Oh yeah. Like I said, my Facebook, it's just Brandon Luna. You'll find me. It'll just say, from Mission, 1240S police officer. You can't miss it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time, brother.
Appreciate it, man.